Welcome back. How about a little politics from the Empire State here? And first up, you got an odd report here out that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, he is trying to pick his challenger this fall, or at least seriously influence the GOP primary. Now, there's one thing where you'd like to face a certain person, but there's another thing when you go about trying to pick the person that you're going to face. Now, this is in part by bashing his most likely opponent, Rob Astorino, a frequent guest in the program, and then also threatening to open up on full bore if, in fact, the Westchester County executive, Mr. Astorino, is that GOP nominee. But what everyone is trying to figure out is why Cuomo would get so involved in the Republican primary process. Now, there's a lot of theories out there. Some say he's doing it to muddle up the GOP in hopes of winning really, really big this fall, 40, 50-point margin or something. Others say he's threatened by Astorino, and he thinks people aren't taking him as seriously as many will here, and he don't want to face this guy in November because he could put up a more credible challenge than just about any other Republican. And then the third theory is that Cuomo wants to face a social moderate, which Astorino is not, thinking that a moderate Republican could alienate GOP voters, keeping them home on Election Day in hopes of winning a Democratic majority in the state Senate. Now, I'm curious. You've heard the theories, Jonathan. Which one sounds most credible to you?
They all could be somewhat credible. Absolutely. I mean, there's no question he has presidential ambitions. Therefore, he might want to run up the score and be as dominant as possible to have a greater mandate in his second term to do more of his agenda. Other parts of it are he's extremely popular, even with Republicans. So by getting involved, I think he could sway some Republicans. There was a report about the chairman saying, "Hey guys, don't endorse the guy. Please just stay out of it. Don't cross the party line." And the other aspect is this aspect like maybe he wants to keep a divided government. He wants to keep the state Senate Republican so he can make this case on a national scene. Look, guys, I'm from New York. We've done a lot of progressive things, yet at the same time, I've worked well with Republicans, the Republican-controlled state Senate, to get things done. And that's what I'm going to do when I go down to Washington and become president.
You know, Dominic, I've heard, we've seen in many places where one party will intentionally fund, let's say, a third-party candidate or even a primary challenger for the other party. So the guy's got to spend a lot of his capital or her capital during the primary. It gets ugly, and then that person is more vulnerable to become the general. But I haven't heard of a governor or any statewide official intentionally working with the other party to help them select the candidate that he or she wants to face in a general. You?
Almost every politician I've covered at the governor, they do exactly that. Exactly that, yes. Now the question is, how far do they go? Do they reach out publicly to the other party? But for somebody like Andrew Cuomo, he only knows one thing.
Winning.
That's right.
Yeah.
Full speed ahead.
Yeah.
He's doing a Chris Christie.
Take no prisoners.
Take no prisoners. He's not afraid of Astorino. He wants to face Astorino because he plans on doing a Chris Christie to Astorino. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but in terms of running up the score the way Chris Christie did, but that's all, Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie, Andrew Cuomo, that's the way these guys are made. They want to run up the score as they're considering for national office, but the problem is national office is not going to work because there's that 800-pound gorilla, if you will, called Hillary Clinton.
Okay, but before we get to that, is the Republican Party in New York so neutered that they're going to take cues from Andrew Cuomo?
Yes. I mean, to be honest with you.
You know, when you don't have a lot of congressmen, you don't have any senators, and that's true throughout New England, it's a party that's in deep trouble. But I used to work with Andrew Cuomo when he was Secretary of HUD. Very impressive guy. He was very willing to work with me as a Republican as long as we were helping him and he was helping us. He had that kind of confidence. But I don't know any politician who doesn't want to win and win big, and he doesn't want to take the chance. I mean, I didn't like it when my opponent got 1/3 of the votes. I said, why did 50,000 people vote against me?
But really? You care about margin that much?
What's that?
You guys care about the margin?
Oh, absolutely. You win big, and then you say, but my God, there were 60,000 people that voted against me, or 80,000. Why did they vote for that person? Why not me?
That's interesting. Whenever I heard that Christie really wanted to run it up, I guess I got it, but I was like, come on, really? I guess they all think this way.
I think the congressman hit it on the head. There's a very shallow bench for Republicans. It's going to be Astorino that Cuomo's going to face. It's almost inevitable. I'm not really sure what Cuomo's doing, if he's just trying to knock him under early at this point and start hitting him, with body blows before he's even fully in the race. I don't really see the advantage or the upside to what he's doing.
Listen, the one thing that I think people underestimate Rob Astorino because we get to know him a little bit. I think he can play better than, let's say, a John Foster or some of the other ones. However, as county executive, you don't have to explain your social policy positions because no county executive really, you can't really do much with your social positions. Right. You run for statewide office, things like abortion, things like gay marriage, those things come up here, and in a blue state, that's going to be a little tricky for him. All right, next up, the political drama, what is the New York State Senate, or as the people who watch the State Senate closely call it, another day at the office. Queens Democrat Tony Avella, he's jumped from the Democratic caucus to that breakaway Independent Democratic caucus, the group now sharing power in the Senate with Republicans. His defection could make things interesting on a bunch of different fronts, including hydrofracking, where we've been saying the governor's got to at least make up his mind one way or the other. It's been a year and a half since some blue ribbon commission. We still don't have an answer where he stands on it. Avella is among the most anti-frackers in the state, and he wants a statewide ban, something most Republicans oppose. Jonathan, what are you hearing here? I mean, it's interesting. This breakaway group, governor doesn't exactly dislike it. He kind of likes the idea because it's worked for him in the past. But Klein's starting to not vote exactly the way he wants. Avella's a bit of a wild card. Does this...
But Klein has come out in favor of a hydrofracking ban. I believe the IDC has a bill for a 2-year ban until the Blue Ribbon Committee comes to their determination. It's great for Avella. I mean, this is a man who's obviously looking to get ahead. He has an agenda that he wants to put forth. And you got to do that being in the majority.
But
and
it's like
just
4 or 5 Democrats and then all of the state Senate Republicans in that caucus. All the Republicans want hydrofracking, and you get the Democrats in that caucus who don't. How does that group stay together?
The Democratic IDC bloc, coupled with the regular Democrats, should they decide to agree on a hydrofracking bill, will actually be able to get it passed. They have the numbers to do so. Oh. And there's ethics reform. There are other issues that the IDC does agree with other Democrats on. And so, yeah, overall, I mean, remember, they came about because there was just so much disarray within the original Democratic caucus with Malcolm Smith and John Sampson and everything. They were just fed up with the nonsense and the garbage that was being
and then
played out of there.
Before them, the Pedro
so
Espada.
Ohio and Pennsylvania
right, exactly.
love New York because they're going to get the oil, they're going to get the wealth, and they're going to get the jobs.
They're also going to get sick.
No, they're not. And the sad thing is, New England's going to continue to be less of an economic place to do work.
I got to tell you, I know Andrew feels the same way I do on this one. With me, I'm not sure how I feel about hydrofracking because there's so many unanswered questions. But the governor owes it to the people of New York to make up his mind. You're right, he's not going to do it in an election year. I know, save my breath, you're going to say, Rich. However, it's been a year and a half now where he said he's going to make up his mind, and he doesn't. And it takes some political courage, not a whole lot, to at least say where you stand on something. I think it is in New York.
When you're at 65% in the approval polls, you don't have to do anything.
I know, but you know what? Okay.
Right?
I'm a little naive, I guess.
And your economy will continue to be level, and other states will do
better. It's working in Pennsylvania. I know we're going to get in a whole fight about it, so I don't want to go there. Okay. Now we come back. Listen, we're all tired of it. We're tired of Iraq. We're tired of Afghanistan. I get it. Blood treasure. Nobody can debate that. But there are things going around this world that we may or may not decide is in America's interest to have some involvement in. But with the military cuts that have just been announced this past week, does it in any way change our capabilities to do so? We're going to talk about that after this.